Hello and welcome to Esther's Gardening Adventures. I'm Esther and I'm about to go away from this area for about a week, maybe a week and a few days. And it's the beginning of summer here and I'm going to share with you the things I'm going to do to help prepare my garden to handle and just kind of prep my garden for my time away. Now I don't have any drip irrigation. My sister's going to be traveling with me, so I couldn't ask her to take care of my garden, and quite honestly, I'm kind of curious to see how it'll do with a week away. So there's some steps I'm going to be taking that I want to share with you as I go. One of them is, of course, watering my plants. So I put the water rings around my trees, in the backyard, my new saplings. This releases the water slowly into the ground so the trees can absorb it. I've watered my container plants here at home, and I have these rice hulls, these organic rice hulls left over from last year that I bought to put on the top of my containers, and last year it made a huge difference in helping keep the moisture. And here's an example. I think this is a Thai basil I got from a friend, coral fountain amaranth, and cotton flower. And then I need to harvest my yarrow. I need to harvest the garlic. I ended up pulling about 30 garlic heads with my sister here. Most of them were actually on the smaller side compared to last year, but I did crowd them a little bit more. I also noticed there was one that had a garlic scape that I had not harvested, and that was even smaller than the rest, so you definitely want to make sure to harvest the garlic scapes. But all in all, it was a pretty good harvest. In both gardens, I'm going to harvest vegetables that should be ready, or I don't want to become overripe and then prompt the plant not to grow more. So I'm going to harvest any even smaller produce. This is a purple bell pepper from a pepper plant that I overwintered, and look how beautiful that color is. My sister helped out by harvesting the chamomile flowers so that we would get more of them. They wouldn't go to seed immediately. And I just think they're such pretty little flowers, aren't they? Of course, I'm also going to harvest the calendula flowers. I use these for medicinal value as well. And I think I took too far down the stem, but they'll still produce more flowers, you know. These plants are pretty hardy. And I removed the suckers from my tomatoes, both in this garden and the community garden I rent. You know, the suckers will turn into their own branches, and you really got to get rid of them as soon as you see them, or else you'll have multiple branches growing out. Oh, there's a little one. And just a quick shot. I'm always so happy to see bees and butterflies enjoying my garden. Over to my community rental garden plot, I have put the rice hulls down over the tomatoes, and I'll be curious to see whether the wind blows the rice hulls away or whether they're able to help hold the moisture in. I also see baby tomatoes coming from my plants, which is so exciting. And I also have some wonderful squash developing, including this pretty delicata. This is a white scallop squash. I've never grown it before, and it's just such a pretty color. It's more of like a light green than a pure white. Joan, you want to harvest one of these? Just a little bit. These two yellow ones, I know. Actually, just leave the top one. One of the tomatoes I've been most excited to see how it develops is this Porco tomato that was eaten down to the nubs. But this big branch up here is a sucker, and I'd be curious to see how this plant does while I'm away, if it continues to grow and be happy. And I'm going to go ahead and remove some of the little branches around the bottom to help it put energy into it. This is a Bueno Mulata pepper, and I just wanted to show you this beautiful purple color. These peppers change color over time. I also trellised up the pepper plants, not all of them, but most of them, to help give them some support while I'm away. And unfortunately, it looks like the cabbage moth, the cabbage loper butterfly, has gotten into my kale. You know, you can only protect it for so long. And I found some chrysalis as well as some worms in here, but we harvested a good amount of kale, and there should be plenty to go. All right, so one last look at the garden before I head out. I'm going to give you a little sort of walk around the garden so we can have a sense, and then when I come back next week, I can show you what's changed. This is where the eggplants are. There's some tomatoes as well as tomatillos. I weed this bed and it just needs weeding constantly, I'll tell you. It's crazy. Here's the tomatillos. Starting to get some little baby fruit here. I've never grown this plant before, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how they look. Here is some mullein plants that I'm growing for medicinal purposes. And then here is my flower bed. You can see the marigolds are going crazy. We also have, a toothache plant. I am so looking forward to trying this out. This is supposed to numb your gums. Here's a red garnet amaranth. It's got these beautiful red spikes coming out now. And we have these beautiful snapdragons that just add a nice pop of color. We've got some zinnias coming up. We've also got some statice. And of course, I love this coral fountain amaranth. It just looks so cool. Right now it looks kind of elephant-like, doesn't it? And these beautiful little yellow snapdragons. I just love having flowers in my vegetable garden. Here's how the other part of my bridal tool covered garden is going. There's cabbage, kale, as well as dill that has grown out the top of the tool, so obviously the bugs can get in, and my sister actually killed a squash bug in there at the end of the day. And then over here, my sister, I told her I had a bunch of sunflowers left, and so she planted some sunflowers in that corner. And here's a look at the squash and zucchini bed. I haven't done anything to stop the vine borers or the squash bugs, and I had to trim back some leaves that were dead and dying, and we'll see how they do in the time I'm gone. Here's the tomatoes. I've also done some more trellising with them with wire and other things to help them be upright, in addition to removing the suckers. Look at this little one. This is a cherry tomato that also got cut down to a nub, and it hasn't grown any suckers to grow tall yet. So when I come back, we'll see if it has recuperated better. Here's the peppers. And then here is where I planted, a baby tomato. I just kind of tucked them in where I couldn't fit them elsewhere, in between these lettuces that I need to pull. And then over here on these two trellises, I have some beans. I have a Christmas lima bean, as well as a Korean bitter melon on the left. I just think flowering lettuces can be so pretty. And then we have some smaller beans that I've put rocks over I couldn't cover all of them, but I'm hoping these little cages will help protect some of them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, please check back in. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Happy gardening.